Picture this. The world is still asleep, draped in a quiet so deep you can almost hear the earth breathing. That's where I find myself most mornings, standing on the edge of something vast and untamed, my heart pounding with the kind of thrill only nature can give. My name's Serena, and at 33, I've carved out a life that feels like a canvas painted with wild strokes of green and gold. I'm married to Luke, the man who's not just my husband, but my compass in every adventure we chase. Together, we've built a love that's rooted in the outdoors, hiking through forests so thick the sunlight barely sneaks through, watching the first rays of dawn spill over treetops like liquid amber, and huddling by campfires that crackle and pop under skies so full of stars, it feels like the universe is showing off just for us. There's this one memory that always comes back to me, sharp and vivid, like it happened yesterday. We were on a hike at the crack of dawn, the kind of morning where the mist clings to everything, turning the world into a soft, gray dream. Our boots crunched over a carpet of pine needles, each step releasing that earthy, sharp scent I can't get enough of. The air was so crisp it bit at my lungs, and I could see my breath curling out in little clouds. Luke was a few steps ahead, his broad shoulders cutting through the fog, and then he turned back to me with this wide, boyish grin. I don't even remember what he said, but whatever it was, it sent us both into a fit of laughter that echoed through the trees. We stopped right there on the trail, doubled over, our voices bouncing off the quiet, until it felt like we were the only two people in the world. That's us, Luke and me, finding joy in the smallest, wildest moments. Of course, our adventures aren't just the two of us. Luke's got 3 friends who've been in his life longer than I have, and they're often along for the ride. There's Austin, this rugged outdoorsman who looks like he was born with a knife in one hand and a map in the other. He's got this sly grin that always makes me wonder what he's thinking, like he knows something the rest of us don't. Then there's Caleb, the quiet one. He doesn't say much, but when he does, you listen. His eyes are piercing, like they're always searching for something just out of sight, and I've caught him watching the group with an intensity that's hard to read. And finally, there's Nate, the charmer of the bunch. He's quick with a joke, always ready to lighten the mood, but there's a mischievous energy about him, like he's just waiting for the right moment to stir things up. We've spent countless weekends with them, camping, fishing, swapping stories over flickering flames, but I've always felt this subtle undercurrent when they're around, a whisper of something I can't quite name, like a shadow passing over the sun on a clear day. It's never been enough to make me say anything, though, not until this trip. This time, we're heading out to a remote spot by a lake, a place none of us have been before, tucked deep in a forest that feels like it's been waiting for us. I'm in the passenger seat of our old, beat-up truck, Luke behind the wheel, his hands steady as ever. Behind us, Austin, Caleb, and Nate are piled into Austin's rugged Jeep, their laughter spilling out the open windows as we caravan down the narrow, winding dirt roads. The tires crunch over gravel, kicking up clouds of dust that swirl in the rearview mirror, and I can't help but stare out at the towering pines closing in around us. They stretch endlessly into the sky, their branches knitting together like a dark, living canopy that blocks out most of the sunlight. Every now and then, a sliver of brightness breaks through, dappling the road ahead. But mostly it's just shadow and green, an ancient kind of quiet that presses against the windows. As we drive deeper, the air coming through the cracked window grows sharper, laced with the scent of damp earth and pine sap. I catch a glimpse of the lake in the distance, its surface shimmering like a sheet of glass under the late afternoon sun, framed by the jagged outline of far-off mountains. My chest tightens with that familiar mix of awe and anticipation. I've always felt small in places like this, but in the best way, like I'm part of something so much bigger than myself. Luke glances over at me, his hazel eyes catching the light, and gives me that half smile of his. "Ready for this, Serena?" he asks, his voice warm and steady. I nod, grinning back, though there's a tiny knot in my stomach I can't quite explain. We finally pull into a clearing near the lake's shore, the ground soft with moss and fallen needles, surrounded by trees so old their bark looks like it's been carved by time itself. The air here is thick, heavy with the smell of earth and the faint tang of water. Austin's Jeep rolls in behind us, and the guys tumble out, already joking and tossing gear around. We pick a spot to set up camp, a flat patch of ground with a clear view of the water, and get to work. Luke and I team up on our tent, the familiar rhythm of staking poles and stretching canvas calming my nerves. I can hear the others nearby, their voices mixing with the rustle of fabric as they pitch their own shelters. Austin wanders over at one point, a bundle of firewood in his arms, and offers to help me carry more from the pile we've started. "Got enough muscle for this, Serena?" he teases, and as I take a few logs from him, his calloused hand brushes against mine. It's quick, barely a moment, but I feel a strange warmth creep up my arm, lingering longer than it should. I shake it off, chalking it up to the long drive and the wild energy of this untouched place. The first day at the lake unfolds like a perfect memory waiting to be made. We spend hours exploring, our boots sinking into the soft earth as we hike along the shoreline, the water glinting like a mirror under the midday sun. It's cold when we dive in for a swim, the kind of chill that shocks your skin and makes you gasp. But soon we're splashing and laughing, the sound ricocheting off the surrounding trees. Back at camp, we share a simple lunch of sandwiches and cold beer, sprawled out on a blanket with the lake stretching out before us like an endless secret. The air is filled with the scent of pine and the faint bitterness of hops, and for a while, everything feels easy, like the world has slowed just for us. But as the second evening creeps in, something shifts. The air grows heavier, thicker, like it's pressing down on my shoulders. The golden light of day fades into a deep, bruised twilight, and the forest around us seems to close in, the shadows stretching long and dark across the ground. We've built a campfire by now, its flames dancing and spitting, casting an orange glow over our little circle. The snap and crackle of burning logs fill the silence, a rhythm that feels almost alive. Luke, always chasing the perfect shot, announces he's heading to the far side of the lake to photograph the stars. It's a passion of his, capturing the night sky in ways that make you feel like you're staring into eternity. I watch him sling his camera over his shoulder, the strap pulling tight against his jacket, a flashlight gripped in his other hand. He gives me a quick wave, his smile easy and familiar, before he disappears into the shadowed trees, swallowed by the darkness beyond the fire's reach. I call out a soft, "Be safe," but the words feel small, lost in the vastness of the night. Now it's just me, Austin, Caleb, and Nate, gathered around the flickering glow of the campfire. The light plays tricks on their faces, carving sharp angles and deep hollows, making them look both familiar and strange all at once. Nate pulls out a bottle of red wine he'd stashed in his pack, the glass catching the firelight as he pours us each a share into mismatched tin cups. The liquid glints like dark ruby, and I take a sip, the warmth of it spreading through me, loosening the tension I hadn't even realized I was carrying. The conversation starts light, little stories and half-remembered jokes, but as the night deepens, it turns quieter, more intimate, like we're peeling back layers we usually keep hidden. I notice their gazes now, lingering longer than before, unapologetic in a way that makes my skin prickle. Austin shifts closer, his presence solid and warm beside me. His hand rests on my shoulder at first, a casual touch, but then his fingers brush through my hair, slow and deliberate. My breath catches, a mix of surprise and something I can't name. Behind me, Caleb stands, his shadow falling over me like a cloak. His arms encircle my waist, firm yet gentle, and I feel the heat of his breath against my neck, a whisper of warmth that sends a shiver down my spine. Nate slides in on my other side, his thigh pressing against mine, the contact grounding and electric all at once. My heart is racing now, pounding so hard I'm sure they can hear it over the crackle of the fire. I'm caught in this web of sensation, torn between shock and guilt. But there's something else too, a forbidden thrill that tugs at me, pulling me under. Then one of them, I'm not even sure who, leans in close, their voice low and rough against my ear. He knows, he wants you to let go. The words hit me like a stone, sinking deep, stirring a storm of confusion and desire. My mind screams at me to pull away, to think of Luke out there in the dark. But my body betrays me, leaning into the heat, the closeness. In that moment, the world narrows to just the four of us, the fire's glow, and the weight of what's unfolding. The night seems to hold its breath as I surrender to the pull, letting the boundaries I've always clung to blur into something reckless, something raw. Time slips away, marked only by the crackle of the flames and the rush of my own pulse, until eventually we pull apart, breathless and disheveled, the reality of what we've done crashing over me like a cold wave. Now there's just silence, a heavy, suffocating quiet that settles over us as we sit by the dying fire. The embers glow faintly, casting long, wavering shadows across the ground, and I can feel the chill of the night seeping back into my bones. My clothes are rumpled, my hair a tangled mess, and I can't bring myself to look at Austin, Caleb, or Nate. Their breathing is still ragged, matching my own, and I sense their unease, the way they shift slightly, adjusting their positions as if trying to distance themselves from what just happened. My hands tremble as I pull my jacket tighter around me, the fabric rough against my skin. But it does nothing to ease the storm inside. My mind is a chaotic mess, spinning with a dizzying mix of exhilaration and shame. What have I done? How did I let myself fall so far, so fast? And Luke. Oh God, Luke. His name echoes in my thoughts like a drumbeat, each repetition tightening the knot in my chest. He's out there somewhere in the dark, oblivious, or so I hope. But what if he isn't? What if he somehow felt the shift, even from across the lake? I stare into the fading glow of the fire, the orange and red embers pulsing like a heartbeat, and try to anchor myself in the moment. But my thoughts keep spiraling. I've betrayed him in a way I never thought possible, and the weight of that betrayal sits on my shoulders like a physical thing, pressing me down into the earth. I want to say something, to break this oppressive silence, but my throat feels tight, the words caught somewhere between my heart and my lips. Beside me, Austin clears his throat softly, but he doesn't speak. Caleb's gaze is fixed on the ground, his jaw tight, while Nate fidgets with a stick, snapping it into smaller pieces with sharp, restless movements. We're all trapped in our own heads, grappling with the aftermath, and the forest around us seems to mirror our tension, its stillness almost accusatory. Then, a sound cuts through the quiet. A faint rustle of branches, a snap of twigs underfoot. My head jerks up, my heart lurching into my throat as I scan the darkness beyond the fire's dim reach. The trees loom like silent sentinels, their shapes indistinct in the night, but something moves among them. A silhouette emerges, tall and familiar, outlined against the pale shimmer of moonlight filtering through the canopy. It's Luke. My stomach drops, a sickening freefall as I see the glint of something in his hands, his camera, the strap dangling loosely as he steps closer. His face is unreadable, shadowed and distant, and the way he moves, slow and deliberate, sends a shiver down my spine that has nothing to do with the cold. I can't breathe, can't think, as he stops just at the edge of our circle, the firelight catching the hard lines of his jaw for a fleeting moment before he turns away slightly. He doesn't say a word at first, just walks over to a nearby rock, his boots crunching softly on the pine needles. With a measured, almost ritualistic motion, he sets the camera down on the rough surface, his fingers lingering on it for a moment before he presses a button. A small red light blinks off, and the realization hits me like a punch to the gut. He was recording. My blood runs cold, my mind racing with the horrifying possibility that he captured everything, every damning second of what happened while he was gone. The air around us grows thick with dread, so heavy I can barely draw it into my lungs. I glance at the others, seeing my own fear mirrored in their tense expressions, but there's no time to dwell on it. Luke's presence is a weight, a silent accusation that hangs over us like a storm cloud, ready to break. Then, without looking at any of us, he turns and walks away, his footsteps fading into the night as he disappears back into the shadowed forest. The silence that follows is suffocating, thicker than before, pressing down on me until I feel like I might crumble under it. The fire has burned low now, just a handful of glowing embers clinging to life, casting long, jagged shadows across the campsite that seem to twist and writhe like my own guilt. I sit frozen, my breath shallow, my heart a wild drum in my chest, as the reality of what just happened sinks deeper into my bones. I can't tear my eyes away from the camera on the rock. It sits there, like a silent judge, the lens a dark, unblinking eye that might hold every secret I've just spilled. My hands itch to grab it, to see what's on there, but they're trembling so badly I don't trust myself to move. What did he mean by leaving it like that? Was it a test? A trap? Or something worse? Some kind of twisted permission I can't begin to understand? My mind churns with his cryptic absence, with the way he didn't even look at me before walking off. Did he see everything through that lens while he was out there in the dark? Or did he just suspect and set this up to confirm it? The questions claw at me, each one sharper than the last, tearing open wounds I didn't even know I had. Guilt is a living thing inside me now, a beast with jagged teeth that gnaws at my insides. I've betrayed Luke, the man who's been my rock, my safe harbor in every storm. I've shattered the trust we built over years of shared trails and whispered promises under starlit skies. And for what? A fleeting rush, a moment of weakness that I can't even fully regret, no matter how much I want to. That's the worst part. The shameful thrill still lingers, a bitter aftertaste on my tongue, mixing with the sourness of my remorse. I liked it, even if just for a heartbeat, and that realization makes me question everything I thought I knew about myself. Who am I now? Not the Serena who laughed with Luke on misty mornings, not the woman who vowed to stand by him no matter what. I'm someone else, someone I don't recognize, and that scares me more than anything. Around me, the others are just as lost in their own turmoil. Austin picks up a stick and tosses it into the dying embers, the small burst of sparks briefly illuminating the hard set of his face before the darkness swallows it again. He doesn't look at me, doesn't say a word, but I can feel the tension radiating off him, a mirror to my own. Caleb sits rigid, his eyes still glued to the ground as if he can find answers in the dirt, his hands clenched into fists on his knees. I can't tell if it's guilt or fear or something else entirely that's got him so locked up, and the not knowing makes the air between us even heavier. Nate, always the one to break a silence, mutters something under his breath about going after Luke, checking if he's okay. But he doesn't move an inch. His voice is hollow, lacking its usual charm, and I can see the way his fingers twitch nervously, like he's itching to do something but doesn't know what. I want to follow Luke, to run after him into the night and fall to my knees, begging for forgiveness until my voice gives out. I want to scream at him, demand to know what he meant by leaving that camera there, what game he's playing with my heart. But my legs feel like lead, rooted to the cold ground beneath me, and the thought of facing him right now, of seeing the hurt or, worse, the indifference in his eyes, twists my stomach into knots. What could I even say? There are no words to undo what I've done, no apologies big enough to rebuild the foundation we've lost. Trust. As the night drags on, none of us can find the will to sleep. We sit there, huddled by the cold ashes of what was once a roaring fire, the last wisps of warmth long gone, leaving only a gray, powdery residue that crumbles under the slightest touch. The forest around us is a wall of darkness, the kind that feels alive, whispering with the rustle of unseen leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. I pull my jacket tighter around me, but the chill isn't just in the air, it's inside me, a deep, gnawing cold that no amount of fabric can shield against. Austin, Caleb, Nate, and I, we don't speak. We don't even look at each other. We're like statues, frozen in the aftermath of a storm we created, each of us lost in our own private hell. The weight of Luke's absence is heavier than ever, a void that seems to grow with every passing minute. I keep waiting for the sound of his footsteps, for him to emerge from the shadows and confront us. But there's nothing. Just the endless night and the endless questions looping through my mind. I don't go after him. I can't. Shame pins me to the ground, a heavy anchor that drags at my every thought. What would I even do if I found him? Apologize? Explain? There's no explaining this, no way to stitch up the gaping wound I've torn into our life together. And beneath the shame, there's something uglier, uncertainty. What if he doesn't want to hear me? What if he's already decided I'm not worth the fight? The thought makes my chest ache, a dull, throbbing pain that spreads like wildfire. So I stay where I am, staring at the spot where the fire used to be, as if the answers might somehow rise from the ashes. Dawn creeps in slowly, almost reluctantly, its pale gray light seeping through the dense canopy of trees. It's not the golden, hopeful sunrise I've seen so many times with Luke, the kind that paints the world in warmth and promise. This is a cold, muted dawn, the kind that feels like it's mourning something. The light reveals the campsite in harsh detail, the scattered gear, the crumpled tin cups, the camera still sitting on that rock like a silent accusation. I can't look at it for long. Every glance feels like a fresh cut. We start packing up as the light grows, but it's a mechanical process, devoid of the usual banter or camaraderie. There's no eye contact, no casual remarks about the trip or plans for the next one, just the sound of zippers closing, tents collapsing, and the dull thud of gear being tossed into bags. My hands move on their own, folding fabric and rolling up sleeping bags, but my mind is elsewhere, replaying every moment of last night, every choice I made, every line I crossed. As I'm hauling a bag toward the truck, I catch a glimpse of movement near the lake. My heart stutters, and I freeze, squinting through the morning mist. It's Luke. He's standing alone by the water's edge, his silhouette sharp against the glassy surface of the lake. His camera hangs around his neck, but he's not taking pictures. He's just staring. Staring at the water as if it might hold some kind of answer, some way to make sense of whatever he's feeling. I watch him for a long moment, my breath caught in my throat, torn between the urge to run to him and the fear of what I'd find if I did. But I don't move. I can't. Instead, I turn away, the image of him standing there, so isolated, so distant, burning itself into my memory. We load up the cars in silence, splitting into the same vehicles we arrived in. I climb into the passenger seat of our truck, but Luke isn't there to take the wheel. He's already in Austin's Jeep, his face turned away from me as they pull out ahead. The separation feels deliberate, a quiet statement I can't ignore. I end up riding with Nate, who drives with a grim focus, his usual charm buried under a mask of tension. The ride is silent, filled only with the hum of the engine, as I stare out the window, wondering how everything unraveled so quickly. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.